There's something for every sports fan on CBSLocalSports.com. Watch live radio shows and original video programming while reading national articles from some of the best writers in the country. Visit CBSLocalSports.com today.
Sports podcasts on Play.it are brought to you by DraftKings, a leading provider of daily fantasy sports.
This is Conrad Thompson with WOOOOO Nation right here on Play.it. And baseball's in full swing, and you can be a part of all the action all season long at DraftKings.com, the official daily fantasy partner of Major League Baseball.
There is only one Ric Flair, 16-time world champion, but don't get down. Don't despair. You can win cash every single day at DraftKings.
No season-long commitments. Win huge prizes every day. Peter from Colorado won $1 million in just one day. Are you kidding me? Hey, Pete, when you come to Atlanta, drinks are on you, pal.
Woo! New contests start daily, so hurry to DraftKings.com right now and use promo code FLAIR to play for free in today's $10,000 fantasy baseball contest. DraftKings.com, official partner of Major League Baseball. Enter Flair for free entry now at DraftKings.com. 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 Woo!
A man who wears the 10 pounds of gold, the nature boy, Ric Flair.
You know, I always like to take this opportunity to talk about myself. Woo!
The 16-time heavyweight champion has arrived.
I've got the style and profile like never before.
The greatest talker in the history of the business is behind the mic once again.
You're talking to the Rolex wearing, diamond ring wearing, kiss stealing, wheeling dealing, limousine like, jet flying, son of a gun. Woo!
This is WOOOOO Nation with Ric Flair.
I'm the man. Ric Flair. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Nature Boy Ric Flair, 16 times, as we've discussed so many times, your world champion. I am the host of WOOOOO Nation, and I'm with my good friend and co-host, Conrad Thompson. And today, ladies and gentlemen, a real treat. It's very difficult to reach this individual. He very rarely comes out of his house. If he does, it's in disguise. He is probably recognized as one of the most genius people in the history of our business. Fearless as a manager. Outspoken to the point of sometimes he's like Bill O'Reilly and has to be censored. We're going to be real careful this time. Once again, I'm not drinking, as I've been censored by my co-host and CBS, and I'm not eating food. So,
and there's no watch beeps.
And nobody's banging my watch on the corner here. So, looking forward to this. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jim Cornette, manager of the Midnight Express. Woo! Hello, Jim.
Nate, thank you for that introduction. Thank you for having me on the program, and thank you for having your attorney. Is it still John Taylor down there in Atlanta?
Yeah, John, yeah.
It was 30 years ago. Thank you for having him vet me and clear me and also give me a list of certain things that should not be said, much like George Carlin's 7 words on WOOOOO Nation.
That's awesome.
Yeah, John's actually in bad health right now, Jim. Sorry.
I didn't mean to start the
No.
Start the day off with a downer.
No, he has Alzheimer's, so, you know, it happens. It just, he's such a guy, you know, and he got me off of a deal in Gainesville, Georgia one time when the guy snatched me around the neck from behind and I whacked him over the head with I believe it was written up as a piece of sporting equipment in the lawsuit. Yeah, no, he's a brilliant attorney, so, and helped me, as you know, so much through the trials and tribulations of WCW. So anyway,
he actually, and one time on a personal note, he got a sodomy charge against me reduced to tailgating. So
a sodomy charge.
Oh my gosh!
You remain one of the wittiest of all time. So how you been, man?
I've been fantastic. As you said, I don't leave the house much. Actually, I've done it to myself. I've ribbed myself this summer, Rick. I've been everywhere. I've been from New Jersey to New England to Tennessee and back again. And I'm coming up July 30th through August 2nd. I'm going to be in your old neck of the woods, Charlotte, at the Fan Fest down there.
Oh, you're coming out? Okay, good.
Coming down to the Fan Fest and bringing my entire fine line of merchandise and wrestling collectibles and memorabilia.
That's great.
And once I finish with that, I'm coming back home to Castle Cornette here in Louisville, and I'm not leaving the state for about 2 months. I've got all kinds of projects going on. I've got my podcast I do, the Jim Cornette Experience.
Is Greg Price actually going to pay you?
Oh. Say again?
Is Greg Price actually going to pay you?
Oh, no. He just opens the door and gets out of my way.
Yeah, he owes me $17,000 plus interest, so... Yeah, well, as long as you don't have to deal with him, you're in a good place.
Yeah, but then I'll be back home in Kentucky, and I'm doing the weekly podcast, which you got to come on sometime.
I would love to, but I tell you, now I got this job with my podcast, is after I got in trouble at SummerSlam a year ago, which you may have heard about, with Jim Ross, Austin had me on his podcast the next day, and we drank a case of beer, and I'm clearly more entertaining when I'm drinking, as you know. And that's how I got this job. So, however, they don't like me to have a beverage on this show, so I don't. I'm just Diet Coke.
I was never able to judge whether you were more entertaining when you weren't drinking because I was only around you daily for 7 years, so I wasn't able to be around you when you weren't drinking.
I never drank before I worked. Who are you comparing me to? And by the way, the thing about Jim and I, our lifestyle is like totally different. Jim Cornette, I have coerced everybody, peer pressure, everybody. Jim Cornette has never had a drink with me.
Wow.
Truth. I could never get him to have a drink.
No. Now, wait a minute. Now, you forgot one. I never had a beer with you. I don't drink beer. I haven't not drunk beer in my life. We know this to be a fact.
Okay.
But when you remember when you came to Louisville.
I know, right.
14 years ago.
With David and all that,
Ohio Valley Wrestling.
And you took me to that real nice restaurant. I did have a
screwdriver with you.
And what now?
I did have a screwdriver with you 14 years ago when you came to Louisville to
Yeah, but that wasn't while we were on the road together. That was... I'm talking about when we were on the road 40 days, 40 nights, that deal.
Yeah, because I was the only one not smart enough not to fall into your trap.
Yeah,
because you're not from here, and your constitution is ridiculous. And when everybody else vomited their way onto the airplane the next morning, I was sitting there minding my own business and not green.
I love you, man. Anyway, we've never really hung out a lot, but he knows how much I respect him, and he's helped me. He really was my support system, along with John Taylor, when that thing went down. Because as much as I wanted to go, I still felt bad leaving WCW, or not. Yeah, at that time WCW.
You're saying in '91?
Jim Herd and all that. But I mean, Jim knew it. He said, "God, go," and it was the right decision. When I got there, and I had a ball, and right back to being who I was. With self-confidence issues, huge. Which I used to, when I used to go to Jim Cornette and say, "What do you think, Jim?" He'd say, "What do you mean, what do you think?" What are you asking me? I mean, it was good. Don't ask me again. I mean, that was our relationship.
You know what? Here's the thing. That's the summer that you called me and said, "What about come up here and manage me and be the Colonel? Be the Colonel.
Yeah.
Kentucky Colonel, Jim Cornette."
Yeah,
and that's what I was setting up Smoky Mountain. And I said, how about I get Rick Rubin to give you $250,000 to make 20 appearances and just stay home?
Yeah. Then you're talking about when you came to WWE, you mean, right?
Well, that's when you...
I wanted you to
WCW
come.
first, then you left. When you went up there... that's when I was setting up Knoxville.
Yeah, no, I wanted you to come up and manage me because he didn't refuse to travel with me anymore. Henning had a lawsuit going.
I wonder why he refused to travel with you.
I think he calls you the Larry Flint of professional wrestling.
Yeah. Well, actually, we're talking to the Larry Flint of professional wrestling.
Hey, Conrad, when I was on the road with Rick and Kevin Sullivan, when Rick put me on the booking committee in WCW, It was the over-under was 3 as to how many of the airline stewardesses would come back to the hotel with us after the flight to join in the booking meeting.
Wow.
Wow. Oh, Jim, you probably have heard just through the grapevine that I've had some marital differences in the last couple of years. I don't know why that ever came about, but yeah. I'm actually 0 for 4 right now, Jim, but that's okay. It's you probably could have forecasted that back in the
Well, but regardless of which, I salute you, sir, for going back in there and not quitting.
Yeah. Well, it's not going to happen again. Just so you know, I'm under oath to Vince, Stephanie, Hunter, all my kids, and Conrad here. And by the way, Conrad's not getting married either. I'm trying to show him that a man with means, which, as you know, Conrad does not need to have a woman with that automatically gets 50% of your dough. I mean, that's just the way these lawyers are. So why would a man at 34 years old making $1 million a month want to give half of anything away, right? As Kevin Nash would say, half of a lot's a lot.
I take it there's not a huge female listening demographic listening to WOOOOO Nation right now.
No, we don't care.
If there were, there aren't anymore.
Yeah, we don't care. Listen,
I've cleared by your lawyer. You might have to work on that. Well,
I've loved them all, and some have stayed and some have gone. But I certainly have not been unfair to the female population. Good Lord, as you know. So they can't be mad at me. The ones that are can stop by and write and live the legend in the next couple of days.
I would have to testify that the female population has been significantly enriched as a whole by the life of Ric Flair.
Thank you. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, some got houses, some got robes.
Yeah, some got houses. Houses, cars, robes, jewelry, whatever, right? Good Lord. So, anyway, let's talk about something positive, okay? We can discuss my marital life forever. It's very entertaining. But let's go back to you, Jim. And I tell Conrad this because I didn't see it. But go back to one of my favorite moments. Give me the history on that promo. Because I said to Conrad last night, we were talking about our podcast with you today. I said the promo that he cut on Raw about Scott Hall, NWO.
Yeah.
When they were at WCW, it was one of the greatest promos I ever heard in my life. Do you remember that, Jim?
Well, actually, and it set off a whole big thing, and people are still watching it on YouTube today, thanks to the internet. But what happened was,
how did that come about? I don't even remember how it came about.
Well, they had just done the parody of you guys, the Flair for the old, and the skull cap for Arn, and the whole 9 yards. And I was up there in Stamford.
Yeah.
And Kevin Kelly, the announcer, who you remember, calls me up one day and says, "We got a thing called Bite This on our website." I said, "What is it?" "It's an audio program." Well, this is 1997. Nobody's listening to audio on the internet, right? Mm-hmm. They said, "We just talk about stuff. You want to come on?" Okay. Well, they asked a question about that, and I gave my true opinion about the fact of the matter. And it wasn't complimentary to the NWO or Hogan. Well, the next day or day or two later, Vince calls me at home in Stamford, and he says, "What did you say on Bite This?" And I'm like, "Oh, my God." They told me I could say anything I wanted. Nobody was listening. Yeah. He said, more feedback on that program, such as it was on the internet, than everything we've ever done put together. So we want you to say the same thing on Raw.
Yeah, that's what I knew you said it on Raw. Okay, I got that right. Okay.
Yeah, I said, "Do you want me to say this on Raw?" "Oh, yeah," because they was the Monday Night Wars, and they were trying anything to come up with something, right?
Yeah.
And so I had to call his attorney, McDivitt, first to make sure that what I said was not libelous or actionable in any way.
Yeah.
And then I said it again.
Yeah, by the way, don't screw with Jerry McDivitt.
Yeah, well, there you go. Yeah, he said, "No," he said, "we can't be sued for any of that, so go ahead." And that's how that came about.
Well, what was the promo? Tell me.
Oh, my God. Well, that was basically I took the NWO to task for being a bunch of prima donnas that had soaked the wrestling business and the promoters for a ton of money that they hadn't drawn on guaranteed contracts while making mockery of guys who've given their blood, sweat, and tears to the wrestling profession and drawn huge crowds all over it. And I ended up with the famous phrase, Hulk Hogan may be a household word, but so is garbage, and it stinks when it gets old, too.
Oh,
wow.
And it got quite a stir.
You think?
Wow. What if now when after you Jesus, I don't remember that, but what did Vince say when you came back to Gorilla after that one?
Well, just to make sure they didn't have me do it live, because to make sure that I didn't. And sometimes I get going too far, and I may have said something that I didn't clear with the lawyer, so they put it on tape. They played it on the screen, and it got a nice little pop.
But it did air on Raw eventually.
Oh, yeah. It aired on Raw that night. It was just a pre-taped interview.
What did Vince say? Was he happy with it?
He liked it. They had me start doing more of them. But the thing is, since it was me telling the truth, I was able to get away with knocking both companies.
Yeah.
And I could take up for people that, I genuinely thought were deserving of same and get a few knocks in. But then they started wanting to, well, why don't you say this? And that didn't work because that wasn't what I really thought. So I kind of did the thing where I would duck down in the back in production meetings, and after a few weeks, they forgot about it.
I love it. You're the best.
Let's go back even before 1997, Jim. When was the first time you actually worked with Ric? Do you remember meeting Ric or your first working experience?
Oh, my God, yes, 1984 in Louisiana for Mid-South. Well, actually, the first time I ever met him.
It was Tulsa. Right, Jim?
Well, the first time I ever met you don't remember because it was in Memphis when you did the match with Lawler at the Channel 5 studio, and I was the photographer.
That's right. I forgot that. Yep. But I came. I helped. I was wrestling. Bill brought me in, and I was the only NWA champion that Bill ever used. And I walked in one night, and I got there a little bit late, and they were having a full-scale riot at the fairgrounds in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It was the Midnight Express. Against rock and roll there too, right, Jim?
Yep, yeah.
I mean, that place was insanity. And I mean, Jim was right there swinging that tennis racket like, the cops back there don't care. The Oklahoma's a little different. Plus, the times have changed, but those guys had more heat every night. I mean, you guys sold out everywhere, right, Jim?
Well, in Tulsa, we actually had so many riots, so many shows in a row that they sent the Internal Affairs Department to investigate police brutality against the fans because one of them that they nightsticked was a highway patrolman's son.
Yeah, oh, wow.
And they ended up, we got the city police kicked out of doing the security at the wrestling matches. They brought in the county sheriff's department, and the first show they did that was a sold-out show at the fairgrounds, and one of the sheriffs got horse-collared by a folding chair that a fan swung at Nikolai Volkov on his way to the ring. So they were knocking out the cops with chairs.
Yeah. No, I know it was I said to myself, I've seen a lot of stuff over the years, because the South can be rowdy too, but that Oklahoma, they were at the fairgrounds, and that was really a tough crowd to get through, and it was laid out wrong because it was hard to get with the. It was first of all, it was like a dirt floor, right, Jim?
Well, it was a rodeo building, so the floor was exceptionally big, and so whether they had the dirt or just a cattle chute or whatever, it was so big, and you had to make the right turns. Didn't you love it when you'd have to go through floor seating and make a nice right and left turn?
That's what I'm saying. It was just really difficult to get in and out of. So it reminded me. I only worked there a couple times, but it reminded me of the old Richmond Fairgrounds.
Okay.
Where Orton, where the big old Bob Sr., not Bobby Jr. Sr., but Bob, the big O, and Dean Malenko's dad, Boris, Great Malenko, got stabbed and hit with a baseball bat. It was terrible.
Wow.
Wrestling George and Sandy Scott. You probably heard that story, right, Jim? And Homer Odell came out shooting his guns in the air and all that. It was... But anyway, Richmond was very similar to that.
You know what, Rick? Now, you've just run off and left every wrestler under 30 because their scariest part about returning to the locker room from the ring is whether Vince is going to yell at them when they get back, right?
Yeah, I know, yeah.
And it used to be when you went to the ring, you would plan your exit just in case shit got hairy. Exactly, okay, I remember I got to go through here. This is going to look bad. Is there a shortcut?
Yeah. No, I know. It was a different time, but I got in all fairness, I just got to say that I'm actually happy for the guys. You know, they didn't live the times and they didn't experience what we did, but it's a much safer environment, and and Vince pays the bills, the medical bills now, and you know,
there's one part about today's wrestling that's more dangerous than it was in our day, and that's Twitter and a camera on every phone and social media.
Oh, exactly.
If we'd had cell phones, would anybody have been married longer than 3 weeks?
No, Jim. If they had cell phones, I wouldn't have not only been married, I'd been in jail.
You'd be a 16-time world marrier.
But no, not even married.
No, he'd be in a pit. We would all been able to be convicted of something.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know what in each specific case, but every wrestler in the world would have gone to prison with evidence that is able to be procured today by just what people are walking around with in their pocket.
Yeah, Jim, we clearly we got out and the time was right.
Yeah. Hey, we said before we went on the air, we said we were going to tell one story. My stories with you always involved me trying to get you to leave somewhere.
I know, exactly.
Either try to get you to leave WCW and come work for Smoky Mountain, or try to get you to go to the WWE, or try to get you to leave there, come by, or whatever. But in 1997... this was my favorite, when you were in the car circling the Greensboro Coliseum on the WWF pay-per-view night, and Vince I was on the phone with you, and the lawyer was on the phone with you, and we couldn't get the lawyer to agree to let you come inside the building.
Yeah, that was it, because I was going to. What they were going to do, and it was Jim's idea, it went to Vince. I was going to come and sit down and bring my son Reed,
right,
who had just won the AAU Nationals. And Jim Ross was going to get up and say, I was going to sit in the front row, right? And Jim Ross was going to say, correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, this is if I remember right. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we have with us a special guest, a champion.
Yeah. Great wrestling champion.
What's that?
A great wrestling champion.
A great wrestling champion, and they were going to walk over and congratulate Reed.
That's awesome.
So he was all excited about doing that. Yeah. No, it's a very
the shock
cool.
was going to be, because at the time Rick was with WCW, but that was one of those
they weren't paying me.
Eric.
Remember, I sat a year without a paycheck, because the minute I cashed a paycheck, that recognized the fact that I had a contract. It was the Bischoff
and basically, I wanted that shot to be. Everybody obviously in the Greensboro Coliseum, when he came in and sat down in the front row during the first match, the people would have blown sky high. Absolutely. And then for Jim Ross to say, we have a great wrestling champion in the front row, we'd like to congratulate and go over and interview Reed, and Rick's just sitting there and never says a word.
Yeah.
The whole thing. It was the greatest appearance of all time.
Yeah, no, I would have died for that moment. But
and who poo-pooed it? Who shot that down?
Jerry McDivitt and John Taylor.
Okay.
But there's always attorneys involved.
Yeah, well, at that point, it was like, it'd be like, what happened is they kept paying me, and I didn't have a contract. Right. But if I cashed a check, I went like 11 months without cashing a check, okay? That's before I was married. I was only married twice, and so I had enough money in reserve. Right now, I got to borrow $5 to pay the coat check girl to get out of CBS today from Conrad. No, things are good, to be honest with you. I'm doing great. But, no, it's just one of those deals, because I was dying to do it, right? I wanted to stick it up their butt. But the other side of the story, too, is, Jim, is Arn and all those guys wanted me to come back to WCW. I was already torn. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
I understand, believe me.
Huh?
I understand, believe me.
Yeah, I mean, my friends were there. I mean, I had friends at WWE, too, but my friends were there. So actually, John Taylor gave me good advice, which my other attorney hated. He said, hey, you can sit home, because I would have gotten rich. So I sued them back, as you know, right? Mm-hmm. And because, as Jim will tell you, Bischoff got up at a meeting in front of 75 people and said, I'm going to break Ric Flair, going to break his family and teach him not. I mean, which a vice president of a company like that can't do. Right. So I would have gotten rich beyond belief, but I probably waited 5 years to get the money. but everybody that sues Turner got paid, correct, Jim?
Yeah, I think Howie, the mailroom guy, is living in the Bahamas now because of a lawsuit against Turner.
Yeah, how about Sonny Ono?
Yeah, Hardbody Harrison, all those guys.
Yeah, all those guys. Sonny Ono sued him. The guy that would, the car dealer from Iowa, Eric's best friend. Turner rolled on Iowa.
Well, and what about the guy that is now serving life in prison for sexual slavery, Hardbody Harrison?
I know.
They sued him basically saying that they were basically appeared to be or presented as racial stereotypes and or ineffective and et cetera, and that was everybody on the roster in WCW. They were all presented as ineffective. So WCW should have sued all of them for impersonating wrestling personalities.
That's hilarious. So, Jim, when did you first come to the Mid-Atlantic area and work for the Crockett's, and how did that all come about?
I recruited him, man.
In large part due to Nate, because he had seen us, me and the Midnight Express, in Louisiana, obviously, as he just said, and then we went to Dallas because we wanted to come to the Carolinas then, but Watts wanted us to go to Dallas because he was going to trade talent with Fritz, and then they got mad at each other, and Watts would be running the Superdome, and we'd be in the rodeo arena in Brownsville, Texas. But Rick put a good word in for us, and had sold us on coming. Dennis Conrad always wanted to come anyway because he had seen the Carolina territory years before when he just was like a rookie referee in the business, and he always wanted to go and had told us how great it was, and then when Dusty came in and worked with us in Louisiana for Watts, we were fortunate because we had Rick and Dusty both on our side, so it's like Crockett couldn't say no.
Yeah, well, why would he? I mean, and then on top of that, when they came, then came the Rock and Roll.
Right.
So they brought not only a phenomenal tag team, and the heels are always. And I mean, I'm not. This is not against anybody that's been a babyface, but heels make the business roll.
Yes,
that's just the way it is. So if you got some great heels, you can find babyfaces, but they got a great babyface team in Ricky and Robert too, the Rock and Roll Express. But if they hadn't come, Jim and Midnight Express, Bobby and Dennis could have found somebody else to work with. So, but it worked out great.
We would have only done really good instead of great.
And then one day, of course, the famous story, Jim, that everybody wants to hear, and we talked about it on our ride over today, Rick and I. One day, all of a sudden, Dennis Condrey's not there. How do you remember that going down from your perspective, Rick?
I don't know. I mean, it's funny because I saw Dennis about 6 months ago, and I asked, I was with him and Bobby in San Diego, and I hadn't seen Dennis since the day he left, and I don't know what happened. I think, I don't know whether he got exhausted because the schedule was ridiculous. And I don't know whether he just said, screw this. I can find something else to do. He lives in Huntsville with you.
Yeah, right down the road from me, yeah.
Well, I can tell you this. I know what it is. I know what it was. It was something not really related to wrestling, but Dennis needed to that schedule would kill anybody, right? Yeah. But when we saw him again 15 years later, he told us, and we both said, you know what, we agree with you. And he said, the only thing is I should have told y'all first. And we said, yeah, we agree with that too. But what happened was,
so he actually never did tell you or Bobby at all, huh?
Oh, well, he did in 2004, but this was 1987. Okay. So what happened was he dropped us off. We were in Wadesboro, North Carolina for a spot show one night, and the next morning we were going to the airport and going to fly to California. We were in Los Angeles, and he dropped me and Bobby off and said, I'll see y'all in the morning, and we didn't see him again for a year and a half. He left town and moved to Denver. He split up with the wife he was with and ended up meeting someone else out there, and his wife Teresa. They've been married for, I think,
usually something like that is created drama. I assumed I had heard that too, that it was marital drama, which can cause all kinds of problems for a guy that when you travel and work like we do.
Sure.
And but I had a great talk with him. I saw him.
It always comes back to marriage with Rick.
Yeah. Well, I just know because the minute you say yes to him once, they think you own you, so you can't say yes. And the motto, Jim, right? The motto is.
And the thing was, Then we saw him. We got the original Midnight. He and Randy Rose and Paulie, your favorite manager, Paulie Danger Heyman.
Yeah.
To come in and work with us, and then that's when they sold the company and switched to Bookers and split their team up, and Dennis double ribbed them by no showing the pay-per-view, and that was it, really. He never worked for him again.
Yeah. Well, continuing on with that story, I know how Stan came into it. Do you keep up with Stan now?
Yes, when we can get him out of the house, he never makes any wrestling appearances anymore.
He finally got married, right?
He got married finally at the advanced age of, I'm not allowed to give Stan's age, but he still looks way too good for it because he's got the genes. Yeah. But yeah, he's married. He's doing boat racing, announcing.
That's what I thought. He's still doing that, right?
Production.
Okay. Well, good.
So he only works 8 months out of the year on weekends in warm weather with girls in bikinis.
Is he in Greensboro now still?
Yeah, he still lives in Greensboro.
Yep.
Or out in the suburbs of same.
Yeah. Do I dare ask? I was going to ask about him. Your mother is still living, I assume.
No, she passed away in 2002.
Oh, Jim, I'm so sorry. I was going to just say because I was going to ask about. Stan Lane was very close to his mom and dad. He just stayed home. But your mother was lovely.
And as a matter of fact, Stan's mother, his father passed away a couple of years ago. He was 92, but Stan's mother's 94, and she's still healthy.
Oh, wow. Well, I'm going back to your mother, who I was around a lot. She came to the matches when we were in her vicinity. And so lovely, so stoic, and so unlike you. She actually was a lady of tremendous. It's hard to describe. She would just carry herself like, like Barbara Bush.
She's a classy individual.
Classy. No, very classy.
Well,
I'm saying, I would talk to her. I would talk to her, and I would look at her because she was real philosophical, and all that. And I would say, I would think to myself, how did you father this guy? I mean, are you sure this is your gimmick? I mean.
Sure is your gimmick.
I mean, she was so different than Jim, like my mom and dad. But I'm adopted. In all fairness, you can't blame my mom and dad. That was just they inherited me. They didn't adopt me. And once they took me, they couldn't give me back. How do we get rid of him, Richard? We're stuck with him, Kay.
Oh my God! Well, with my mom, it worked out well because she had passed on certain of her good traits to me, and then the bad traits I picked up from running around with the wrong element on the road.
Yeah, but Jim, there's nothing wrong with a trait that you have that. Sometimes I wish we all had. I wish I had spoken up when sometimes I didn't. You're never afraid to say what you're thinking. You're always honest. And there are times. There are times you just want to go, what the hell? I mean, you think back on the decisions you could have made. Right. Just what I would have said. My problem was as a world champion, I'm the only world champion that said yes all the time when I should have said no. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But I was getting bombarded by the Von Erichs. Bob Geigel was the weakest president of the NWA of all time. I mean, what do you want to do to him? I mean, you tell them what to do, Bob. That's what Sam did, you know what I mean? Right. I get to the town, it's a Broadway or I win, right? No, Bob would say, what do you want to do? But Fritz Von Erich wants to. But, if they put me in a bad spot all the time, Bob did, you know what I mean? So it just became a nightmare. But with Jim, what do you have?
If you can tell, the UPS guys just come to the front door because my watch Pomeranian, my guard Pomeranian is about to attack.
Well, I didn't know that was a dog or one of the girls. I never know you might have it hanging upside down there in a crucifix.
Well, no, I put the gag on them to make sure they can't make any noise.
So a few shows ago, Rick, you made a joke that, and I don't know if this is real or you were just ribbing or what. Jim never allowed the maid service at the hotel to come into the room?
Never. He was like Piper. He had somebody tied up.
No, you know what? I'll tell you what.
No, just kidding, Roddy.
In some cases, that would have been more in the nighttime hours. The maids wouldn't have been coming by. But no, see, the thing is, I never lost any of my stuff on the road.
He was
I don't like. I'm an only child, and I've got the OCD, so I don't like people messing around with my stuff. The first thing I do when I go into a hotel room is I take everything that reminds me it's a hotel room. I throw it in a drawer. The little cards and the gimmicks and the advertisements and everything in a drawer, and then I shui the room. The feng shui the way I want it. Lay my toiletries out right, and I don't want anybody in that space until I leave it.
Yeah, you also don't like girls. You try to remove everything that has a name of where she's at in the room.
Well,
so when they wake up in the morning, they can't look around and identify anything.
Yeah, and I wipe the thing down for fingerprints when I leave the room also.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's just get right to it, okay? Good Lord. Dandy Don.
Oh, my gosh. Well, hey, you need to follow Jim Cornette on Twitter if you haven't already. He's a great follow. He is at the Jim Cornette. And if you haven't picked up his books, you should certainly check them out. My favorite is the 25th anniversary of Midnight Express and Jim Cornette. And you can check that out at jimcornette.com. And as always, you can check him out on MLW Radio, The Jim Cornette Experience. Did I do an adequate job plugging some stuff there for you, sir?
You did okay, Conrad. You got a future. If you just listen to us and train under us, sit under the learning tree, I think you'll be fine. You got the perfect face for radio already.
Hey, one of my favorite stories, too, is the time that Nikita was giving Jim some crap, and he always liked to bully Jim a little bit. So we were in a dugout in Cincinnati. Remember that when I had to light up Nikita?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Jesus.
So what happened there? What was the deal?
He was like, it's one guy that wasn't tough at all, but
Nikita,
he thought he was
you're saying?
tough. Yeah, the gas-stuffed tadpole. And he was, healing on Jim and all that. Man, here's a guy that couldn't carry anything in regards to Jim Cornette in terms of wrestling skill, knowledge, or anything, right? But he was healing on him, and Jim, I said something to him, nothing major, but just, figure it out. And Jim came up and thanked me, and I thought, well, for what? I mean, that's not tolerated. I mean, you just don't do that. And it goes on to this day. Not as bad as it used to because Vince won't allow it, but...
Well, I think Nikita also, his problem was he was prone to fits of anger for reasons that we were yet to discover.
Yeah. I know. Well, he got a tremendous push, with a limited ability. I mean, Dusty created that dungeon and had him down there lifting weights, and he lived it. One thing that Nick did is he lived his gimmick. He didn't talk English.
Remember when he was on the Crockett's plane with only the boys? He would still use the accent. And one time Arn said, "GQ ball, it's just us boys. We know you're Scott Simpson from Minnesota."
Minnesota.
Hey, GQ ball. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Arn called him GQ ball. Oh, God, we can laugh about it. Wow. Well, Jesus. Yeah. So, Jim, another one of the greatest memories happened in Atlanta, Georgia. Do I need to remind you of what that night was?
Oh, God, the scaffold.
Yeah, the scaffold with Big Bubba.
Hey, I tell you what.
Big Bubba, for reasons unknown, missed Jim by 5 feet. And Jim looked at him and said, "You
lost
dumbass."
me in the lights, is what he did.
What?
He lost me in the lights.
Yeah, okay. I never thought of saying that before.
I've told the story before, but when we went in, Dusty gave us the finish. He said... And the thing is, make the people believe that forget that the Midnight Express lost the match, baby. You're gonna get chased up the scaffold, and you're hanging there from the scaffold because the road was trapped. You got nowhere to go. And there's the Midnight Express and Big Bubba Rogers, biggest man in the world. They're gonna be down in the ring underneath you, and you just kick your feet up, baby. Just kick your feet up, and they'll catch you like they catch the girl cheerleaders at the football game. And we got to the Omni and looked at that scaffold, and I said, "I'll kill all of us." The University of Alabama football team could have caught me coming off that scaffold like that.
I know. It was you looked up and said, "You dumb son of a bitch."
So it was a rushed Plan B with the Bubba trying to kind of break my fall a little bit, and then he said, "Jimmy, you fell so fast."
Jimmy, you fell so fast. Oh, Jesus. Oh, my God.
Of course, Dusty Rhodes is still in our hearts and minds. Do you have any good Dusty Rhodes stories that incorporate Rick that you could share with us today, Jim?
Oh, God. Well, I'll tell you what. There was one night in St. Louis. We had finished wrestling, me and the Midnight Express, and the main event was Rick and Dusty for the NWA title. And this was very early when we were going to St. Louis for Crockett, so like late 85, early 86. And the fans were still somewhat rowdy there, and it was at the, Rick, you'll remember, maybe at the Checker Dome, at the arena.
Yeah, we couldn't get in the Keel then.
And basically, me and the Midnight are standing back this long aisleway. It was a long way to the ring, and we're watching the match, and Tommy Young, the referee, gets bumped, and somehow Rick manages to get Dusty in the figure four. And here, we're standing in front of the cops that are supposed to be working security, and they're standing there talking to each other 100 yards from the ring, and this fan comes in the ring and starts wailing on Rick. And I looked at the cops, I said, don't you think you should get the fan out of the ring? And they looked for, oh, geez, and they charged and hit the ring. By then it was too late. But yeah, just watching Rick and Dusty work all those shows in 86 when it was the hottest match that we had in terms of box office, we were always right underneath, so we could run back and watch the thing, and they always had heat. I mean, Dusty had been sometimes out of the ring too, as you know, but
yeah, we all went through that, but that's.
But Dusty, he was bigger than everybody else as a personality. His everything he did seemed like it was more important. He just had that charisma about him.
Yeah, and the thing too that we talk about, because I actually was fortunate enough to be with him the day before he died. He passed away on Thursday. I was with him on Monday. So yeah. But he went in the hospital Wednesday morning. So is it while Dusty was working, right? He used to call it, we were all working the same schedule. I mean, Dusty was wrestling every night, everything else, but Dusty at the same time was thinking.
Right.
Does that make sense? He was booking, and I mean, while he was going to be going on last and making a blade as big as anybody, right, ready to do anything, he booked it, and I mean, I would have never had the patience to even think like that. I mean,
to keep that road schedule,
yeah,
to do the main event matches and the promos and the TVs, and then to be booking the whole thing and responsible for laying out everybody else's stuff, it's incredible.
Yeah, so I'm saying. I mean, it's like we all got in the car. We bitched on the way to the town. We got drunk and on the way back and bitched or laughed and had a good time. But we were all making a lot of money, and we didn't have to be in the office in the morning to be thinking things out. And we were always thinking for ourselves and complaining and that. But here was the dream down there, and he would say, "I'm geniusing." I'm genius.
Yeah, being all geniusy.
Yeah. Say it like that, Jim.
Being all geniusy.
Yeah. Oh, man. Well, tell me, what's your schedule like?
Well, like I say, I'm taking a couple of months off, hopefully, from the road, because I've got a new book coming out in the next couple of months. It's in layouts and cover design and everything, which is a pretty much comprehensive history of Louisville wrestling.
Yeah.
And it's going to have a bunch of stuff in print that has never been in print before. Otherwise than that, my weekly podcast. I'm doing yard work now, Nate. It's amazing. I'm doing yard work. I'm trying to keep healthy.
Oh, you are? Now, are you still in the same house? You have a beautiful home.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I'm in Castle Cornette here. I've been back since my mom passed away for 11 years now and still working on the yard. Yeah, Jim, I
feel bad. I didn't mean to bring that up. I felt like I knew her so well, and then you lose track of somebody, for a number of years, and yeah, she was really a wonderful person. I'm so sorry that I brought that up like that. Oh,
no worries. But that's why I'm staying around the house a little more this fall. The book, the podcast, coming up with some new merchandise and doing some new columns and enjoying the new Pomeranian, who's named Harley, but it's after Harley Quinn, not Harley Race.
Yeah, I saw Harley last night. He came to Raw in St. Louis, and boy, he's had some major health issues, Jim. Jesus, unreal. It's sad to see. He's got it upstairs, but physically he's really in bad shape. I feel terrible seeing him like that.
But you know what? For a guy who's been in near-fatal car wrecks, boat wrecks, wrestled at a high level and took incredible bumps for 30 years, He's still probably in better shape than he should be.
Well, he's in a wheelchair, Jim, and his right leg he can't feel from the knee down. So he's just tough. He just, Harley's one of those guys that's like Jack Mulligan, just too tough to go down. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because he just doesn't look good. But he finds humor and he can talk and laugh, and that's a good thing. I'm going to go out there and do a show for him at the end of August. And I said, "You got a hotel with a bar?" He said, "No, but the hotel, there's a bar 2 blocks down. Actually, there's 4 bars." I said, "That's all I need, Harley." His girlfriend said, "We can take you to the casino." I said, "No, I don't do casinos. I don't do well in those. But you got a bar, I'm coming." So anyway, he's got a little promotion there. He's not in Eldon anymore. He's in closer to St. Louis, but he's doing good.
Yeah, I heard he'd moved closer to St. Louis.
Yeah, he did. So going to go out there for 2 days, the 28th and 29th, and help him get that thing going. And the theme of the show is the Night of Champions. So, I'd do anything for Harley Race. He certainly did enough for me in my career. So, anyway, God, to see all these guys, I guess the direction I was going is seeing all these guys getting sick. And, it's just, the thing with Dusty really caught. I knew he would have been sick, and he'd lost 80 pounds, but it just came out of nowhere, And now
I was hoping that he had lost the weight as a preventative measure instead of anything, health-related.
The weight loss was as a result of the medication he was on.
Oh.
Yeah, and then he had just gotten, the word to go on new medication the following Monday.
Wow.
Which would have allowed him, he was on a salt-free diet. He couldn't eat, drink, nothing, And they finally got it under control. Diet was going to be changed. He could start being normal again and gain some weight back, and bingo, it happened. So, and Jack Mulligan is in terrible shape, Jim. 400 pounds.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, and he just had a stroke while undergoing brain surgery. So it's just, God, scary.
Well, hell, my cholesterol's down.
There's some good news. I'm thankful for good news.
Yeah, how can that possibly be?
Hey, Nate, I'm taking better care of myself. I'm sticking to my diet as much as possible. That's another reason I'm taking time off the road, because I've been slacking on my diet. But my doctor told me my cholesterol's down, my blood sugar is fine, my blood pressure is fine. He told me from this point on, if I take very good care of myself, eventually I'll get very sick and die.
Well, okay. I'm glad you didn't go so far as to say that you were exercising, because no one would buy that.
Well, no, I do a little yard work. It's exercise by proxy.
There's not a treadmill in the
Castle Cornette.
In the Castle Cornette, is there?
No, I only run when people are chasing me.
And I bet you had a lot of village idiots chasing you back in WCW. When did you first start booking, Mr. Cornette?
Oh my God, that's Flair's fault.
No, it's not my fault. Everybody knows that it took me 13 years to get out of high school, okay? I'm the first to admit it, right?
5th year senior.
So the only reason I took the job in the booking committee was just to find a place to hide, because, brother, they weren't taking care of me. But I surrounded myself with people that were smart. Never going to say, I was a hell of a hand in the ring, but I'm never going to tell everybody I was a genius. But I got Shorty, I got Jim Cornette, and I conned Mike Graham, who was really smart at one time. I don't know how Dundee ended up there. That was a joke. But, sorry. Greg Gagne was... I'm sorry, but I mean...
Don't sugarcoat it, Ray. But no, what happened was Rick got the book, and also because already...
Rick didn't get the book. Rick was hiding.
Well, Rick was...
If I was the booker, there never would have been dinglings, okay?
Herd was starting to exert influence that was detrimental to business. So Rick said, "I'll have the book, please." And then he got me and Kevin Sullivan and et cetera. But I got to learn from Kevin how to do paperwork, and Rick, you shortchange yourself, because you were the definition of what a good booker was. You set the direction. You knew from being an in-ring performer, this guy should work a program with this guy. They can get the most out of each other.
I just didn't. I never appreciated the heat that goes along with that job. Because you can't win. I mean, and then it's by committee, And Eric, and I just did that because I was ducking and dodging. You know, I mean,
but you picked the right people to work against each other in programs. You had a tremendous eye for your own. You let me and Kevin do paperwork, and it worked, and it was the highest ratings and the best pay-per-view buy rates they had for the following 6 freaking years. So something was right.
I'm actually going to, Jim, thank you for reminding me of all that. I'd forgotten that. I'm going to send that on my resume to Vince for my 3rd Hall of Fame ring.
There you go. Hey, Ric Flair and Arn Anderson against it was Tully and Arn and the Rock and Roll did a 4.4 on the Sunday show, and you and Pillman did a 4.0 on the Saturday show in the same weekend. They'd been doing 2s 4 months before, and Hurt still wouldn't leave you alone. Yeah.
Well, how about the time I go to him, because I was dying to work with him as a single anyway. I go, let me have Bobby Eaton. No, he don't mean nothing about Midnight Express. We go into Knoxville. Remember that?
Yeah.
We went to Knoxville.
Wasn't that a Clash of the Champions?
Clash of Champions.
Yeah.
Yeah, me and Bobby, man. We tore it down. We did a hell of a number on that.
But Herd said, why does Bobby Eaton get a title match? You drop him in out of a helicopter?
That was it, yeah. That was the line. Yeah.
And remember the first one you did a DQ because you didn't want to beat Bobby. And that's when he was like, well, yeah, world champion can't even beat Bobby Eaton. So then you had the rematch, and I came up with a finish and pitch to you where you beat up Stan, knocked me out with my own racket, and then beat Bobby 1, 2, 3, and was standing there with all of our bodies laying in various places around the ring, and I said, is that a flat enough job for fucking Herd, right?
Yeah. No, I know, but I mean, the Herd that's never had that was a Jim I had forgotten. Like, how did Bobby get it dropping out of a helicopter? I don't know. How did you get there, Herd, you dumbass? Did they bring you in a pizza truck and drop you in the back of the building at CNN Center? Jesus Christ, somebody rolled you in with the garbage and took you up the elevator chute to the office? I don't know. What a moron. Jesus. I tell everybody, the guy said, how did Jim Ross do it? I said, Jim Ross kept him drunk. The only time you could tolerate Hurt is Jim just kept the scotch going down his neck.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is Jim Ross had more patience than the rest of us.
He did.
We all just wanted to just choke him and be done with it.
Yeah.
JR would actually just placate him until he could get rid of him.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, Jim wrote it out, but Jim was smart, he was as impulsive. The guy could just push your buttons, man. It was incredible the things he said to you. But who knows?
Remember when, I hate to bring up detrimental things with Blackjack's current situation, but when Blackjack and his other son, Kendall, went to jail for a brief period of time in Florida, they called me because Kendall was working for us, and I happened to be somewhere where they could reach me. Rick and Kevin, everybody was on the road. I said, well, take Kendall off the cards because he's in jail, and put in so-and-so because he's not working, right? So it's an underneath match. That's a major decision I've just made. And the next booking meeting, Herd says, and I'm sick and tired of all these card changes. And he points his stubby finger at me, and he says, I'm looking at you when I say that. I said, what are you talking about? Well, you just changed the cards. I said, the guy's in jail. What do you want me to do, bake him a cake with a file in it?
Yeah, I mean, he was oblivious to everything. God, I really don't care what he thinks of me. I guess I've made that pretty clear. But he made my life miserable, boy, I'll tell you. When I cut my hair and I walked through that airport, and I cut my hair and nobody recognized me, I wanted to kill myself. Then he wanted to put an earring in my ear. Remember, Jim?
Oh, yeah, Spartacus.
And call me Spartacus. Yeah, thanks, Jim.
So Jim, were you in that meeting when the earring is pitched? Do you remember what that sounded like?
No, that's actually, I had already quit the committee by then, so I was not in that meeting because the way
actually what happened is Herd asked you to leave the room. Jim was telling him off. He said, you can't talk to me like that. And Cornette said, you're right. I quit. Goodbye. And walked out the door.
Oh.
Yeah, it wasn't
it was bad.
He didn't just resign casually, Jim, like that.
It was a production.
Yeah, Jim had his words, and then he walked out. I quit.
You quit the committee, not the promotion.
Not the promotion. They couldn't lose Jim Cornette and the Midnight Express.
No, I quit the committee in March. I quit the promotion, I believe, in October.
What was the story there? How did that come about? I
always used to tell Bobby Eaton, this is how I want to give my notice to Jim Hurd. I want to go in CNN Center. I want to go to his office. I want to shove the door open, and I want to fire 3 or 4 shots from a blank pistol at him, right? And so that was how I was going to quit, because I knew I was going to quit a long time before I did. And Bobby finally said to me, he said, Corny, he said, all the stupid things that he's done to so many people and as many people as hate him, he may have a real one in his top desk drawer and start shooting back. I said, well, you may be right.
Yeah. Hey, Jim, you keep up with Bill Watts at all?
Yes, every so often, and I just saw him last year down. They had a Mid-South Wrestling Fan Fest over WrestleMania weekend down at the St. Bernard Civic Center.
Good. How's he doing? Good?
He looks great. Is opinionated, outspoken, and walks tall.
Yeah. Well, I enjoyed when they inducted him in the Hall of Fame. I think it was in was it Houston? I think I can't remember 2011. But I really enjoyed sitting and talking to him for a long time. Bill, I'm the first champion Bill ever brought in NWA.
That's cool.
And I wrestled an hour every night. The buildings were sold out. Not because I was there, but their business was really good. And that was without Junkyard Dog. If he was gone, Duggan was gone. No, Duggan was there, still there, but JYD was gone. DiBiase was gone. It was midnight rock and roll. A couple of Von Erichs came in and out. Butch Reed. I can't remember who all the gang was.
Freebirds were there for a bit.
Freebirds right in and out. But
yeah, well, they had a model regional territory there. It was run perfectly as a regional territory should be run. But then remember, Rick, another time you were on the road with me and Bobby Eaton and Stan Lane when we went back to the Mid-South territory after Turner had just bought the company. It was like November, December of '88. And I got a Lincoln Town car, so you would agree to ride with us.
Thanks.
No, and we went to all the old Mid-South towns 4 years later, and they couldn't draw 15 cents in Chinese money, unfortunately, at that point. We go to show you sometimes it's the promoter as much as the promotion.
Yeah, well, Bill was a smart guy. I mean, he came up under Eddie Graham's tutelage, and you know, Eddie was a genius. Everybody knows that. It's just, that's another sad story. It just seems like so many of the guys that were so smart in the business, you know, just beat themselves up later on in life. But Bill survived, and he went through a tough divorce, but he came out of it, and Bill made a lot of money. The thing that where Bill, I don't know if he got it all, but when Bill sold what there was nothing to sell to Crockett, for $33 million, right?
Is that the real number?
No, $33 million is what Crockett's paid for the... isn't that correct, Jim?
I don't know if it was that much.
That seems way high.
How much do you think it was?
Well, let's put it this way. I don't think he got all of it. Whatever it was supposed to be, he didn't get all of it.
Yeah, first of all, I'm not documenting that. That was the number I heard. But anyway, it was some ridiculous... If it was $5 million...
It was too much.
It was too much. I mean, there was nothing to buy.
Right.
But, you know, they went out and got it, and then we started running it. Like Jim said, it was nothing there. So, who knows?
But you know what you said is so true. All the guys, most of the guys in the business for so long, for so many years that were so smart and so successful, they end up beating themselves up. I'm glad that I'm deliriously happy still. Apparently that means I wasn't very successful.
Yeah, well,
I can remain only moderately successful and reasonably intelligent and be just happy as a clown.
Yeah, well, that's
I don't want to be a genius and be miserable.
Is there a woman under your tutelage as we speak?
Yeah, well, she's not here right now, but yes, there is. You met her when you came up here.
I was trying to be polite to ask him, but with the same young lady that.
Yes, the lovely and talented Stacy that's been the same one for 16 years.
Well, that is unbelievable. She deserves a merit badge and more. Good Lord.
She has a degree in abnormal psychology.
Yeah, actually, you know, what they need to do at his place is they need to get Mariska Hargitay and film a law and order crime scene investigation in his house.
There are certain holding rooms that I have that built into the castle.
Crime scene investigator. CSI, CSI, crime scene.
CSI Louisville.
Yeah, CSI Louisville. Let Mariska go around that house and wipe off the place for prints. Good Lord. How many animals do you have living in the house besides the Chihuahua?
No, just Harley Quinn, the little Pom, the
I love you. Oh man, well listen, we're gonna let you go.
Before we do though, give us all the information on everything we need to know about Jim Cornette and Jim Cornette's Collectibles.
Well, once again, and the dog agrees with you. Once again, thank you for having me. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for having me. I've enjoyed being had. I have been had many times. I always enjoy it. You can go to JimCornette.com.
That's my problem too, Jim. That's what I tell him. Okay, I can be had. Okay. I just got to learn not to give my credit card.
For anything that I do. Please listen to my weekly podcast, The Jim Cornette Experience, every week on MLWRadio.com. Read my books, buy my merchandise, come see me on my few and far between public appearances for the rest of the year, and I hope to be back someday on WOOOOO Nation.
All right. Mr. Jim Cornette, thank you. I am so honored to have had this hour with you and caught up, and we've laughed, and that's, I'm very strong and I try to tell the kids today in wrestling because it's hard to get a smile out of them. They're so tense, but we laughed and had fun and we made money, and we have a lot of great memories. And Jim, you're one of my great memories in my life. So thanks, man.
Thank you, Rick. I appreciate everything.
Love you, buddy. Take care, okay?
You too. Bye-bye.
Hey, do me a favor. Buy a dozen flowers or do something for Stacy tonight. I'm in disbelief she's still there. So I approached that, like I was walking on glass.
Sure, yeah.
Same young lady.
I saw you tiptoeing.
Yeah, I did. And so, congratulations, man.
Thank you, Nate.
Okay, hey, you know what the hunter said to me, right? He said, I was making a rib about the people want to use the figure four. And I said, Hunter, why do all these guys want to use the figure four? He said, well, he thinks it's going to get them laid. And I said, also, probably get married 4 times.
And hey, a Flair finally won a match on a pay-per-view with a figure four.
I know, my daughter won with a figure 8 last night.
Oh, my God, well, and that's the first.
That thing has never worked.
Ever.
I know.
Finally did.
Jesus, and even when the Mark BBM in St. Louis, I had to figure 4 on myself.
Hey, you know what? That just means that, she does it better than you did.
No, thank you. You know what?
She does.
I'm the first to say it. She does. She's so much better than me, Jim. I swear. If you ever do me a favor, one night, I'll tell you when she's on, and please watch her. She's great.
I will. I'll tell you one thing. If I'm ever on the same plane as she is, and she walks on at 6 o'clock, if she walks on at 6 o'clock in the morning, wearing a 3-piece suit, brushing her hair, and carrying her belt bag, I'm jumping off the plane.
Say that again. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I'm saying if I'm ever on the same plane as her, and she gets on at 6 o'clock in the morning, brushing her hair, wearing a 3-piece suit, and carrying her belt in a belt bag, I'm getting off.
Thank you. I love you, man. Thank you so much, Jim. Jim, you were there when she was born. You've known her that long.
Oh, my God, that's right, yes.
Yep, you sure were. All right. I love you, man. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, sir.
I love you, Dave. I'll talk to you soon.
Woo!
Woo!
The Nature Boy is going to take a quick trip on Space Mountain. You better be here when I get back.
Do you love listening to your favorite podcast on Play.it? Sign up today for the Play.it newsletter to receive monthly updates on new podcasts, notable guests, trending shows, and more. Sign up now at playitnewsletter.com. That's playitnewsletter.com. Hear what you've been missing.
The greatest talker in the history of the business is behind the mic once again. This is WOOOOO Nation with Ric Flair.
Boy, Jim's a great guest, man.
Great. Thank you so much.
And he's done everything in the business, man, from booking and performing and running a promotion.
And still as entertaining as ever.
As ever.
What a great guy. Conrad, thank you.
Thanks for having me, man.
Jim
This was a
Cornette,
good
thank
one.
you. James, great job. So glad you're back in the studio.
We didn't eat.
Huh?
We didn't eat.
We didn't eat.
We didn't drink.
I know.
We had no watch beeps.
What a boring day, you know.
And James made us sound better.
Woo! Yes, he did.
I'm ready for next week.
Ladies and gentlemen, until next week, this is the Nature Boy and my best friend Conrad, our producer
James,
saying over and out until next week. Woo!
Nation.
Do you love listening to your favorite podcasts on Play.it? Sign up today for the Play.it newsletter to receive monthly updates on new podcasts, notable guests, trending shows, and more. Sign up now at playitnewsletter.com. That's playitnewsletter.com. Hear what you've been missing.